almost live. There we are.
Alrighty.
From the industrial wastelands of Michigan to the fruited plains of Iowa, this is the American Greed Factory.
I relate to its sheer perversity.
You are the dead. Remain exactly where you are. Make no move until you are ordered.
We burn them to ashes and then burn the ashes. That's our official motto.
Now we can see you. Clasp your hands behind your heads. Stand out in the middle of the room. Stand back to back.
Who can explain the fascination of fire? What draws us to it, whether we're young or old?
Here comes a candle to light you to bed. Here comes a chopper to chop off your head.
And welcome to the American Greed Factory podcast. This is Nathan.
This is Conlon.
It's been an exciting week. A lot of cool stuff has happened. One step closer to World War III. That's always good. Yeah. So, here we are. And we're ready to go. Just the two of us tonight.
Yep.
We're going to have to talk shit about Andrew. He's not here.
He's not going to listen.
Because that's what we do.
You didn't make it? Fuck you.
Yeah, sometimes I don't make it. But when I don't make it, the show doesn't run. So
Yeah.
kind of sad. That's why I always hate it when, you know, that's why I'm so glad my dog hasn't shit all over the house or something. That's why I make him do
Shouldn't poop a swastika in front of your door again.
yeah, just show her hate. Yeah. So that's
So
good.
far, like 8 different KMFDM songs have popped in my head.
Shitting swastikas, part 1 and part 2.
One of those, World War III, that song popped in my head. Which the main line to that is World War III, be all that you can be. And then Feed Your Hate, that was another one. I don't even know what. What's that?
This guy's still around.
I think the World War III album was really good, but that came out like 6 years ago. But they have this kind of pace where they put out an album and then they kind of have a remix album for like the next 2 years, and then they put out like another new album.
Oh,
So
okay.
they've been putting out like they're still putting out shit as far as I know. I remember they broke up like back in like the late 90s, but kind of came back together again.
Oh, okay.
And there was that part where like they got blamed for Columbine, and then they were kind of like already quit, and then they came back as MDFMK, and then they just came back as KMFDM like a couple of years later after that.
Yeah, and that's those guys are like it's like a German group, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I can't remember what KMFDM is supposed to stand for. Well, I've heard it's supposed to stand for No Pity for the Majority, which is supposed to be like Keiner Max für dich mehr, something like that. Mehr means very, but so maybe can't remember, but that's sort
You
of.
know German about more than German about me.
Well,
so.
Keiner means no, Max means make, but that can apply in like 8 million different ways. Für is just like not für, but für is for. It's just spelled F-U-R. And Deke can mean you and other things.
Okay.
And then Mehr means like very, but I guess maybe I'd have to look at it. But yeah, that always sounds like a good name for a band. No Pity for the Majority.
Sounds uniquely German. Like, yep, that's about right.
And Sex on the Flag. I think that was on the Money album, and that might be one of only 2 good songs on that album.
Oh, I remember that. Is that the one where the guy's got a gun and drugs, and there's some lady with?
That's every KMFDM album.
Yeah. Like some lady.
There's some lady with a sword or a shotgun or something.
Yeah. I used to have a couple of their albums.
Yeah, I think I ended up with them
Probably.
For some moves. Because I remember I had Money and Angst. Angst is a really good album. The one I never got, but it's probably the most popular one because I remember it like when I would buy back in VHS where I'd buy like one anime for like $18 on VHS. There's that company that was just I want to say it's Magna or something like that. And like they were the most popular like anime distributor at the time. They used that Nile song as like the soundtrack to like their sizzle reel of like, hey, check out all these cool anime you can buy. And I think that was like their biggest album because Nile was pretty big. I think Juke Joint Jezebel might be on that album. I can't remember.
That might be. Yeah, I think it is.
That's the one where it's like the cover of the just kind of vaguely Asian lady. It's kind of Mona Lisa-esque.
Yeah, I remember.
It's not really in the style of like almost all their other albums.
Yeah, it's very different cover art.
Because usually it's like very.
I remember they were touring with Ministry was how I found out about them.
Yeah.
Well, that goes back a few years ago when I graduated high school. That was so. All this magical stuff. But yeah, speaking of the end of the world, we have some. Where's my thing at?
To ignore the facts of history and the aggressive impulses of an evil empire.
Kind of. There it is. So what threats have the Russians made this week? They unveiled their new RS-28 Sarmat, what we call the SS, what do we call it? The SS-25, or maybe we call it the RS-28 too. But our code name for it is Satan, because it's a huge, massive, liquid-fueled, heavy-lift, massive rocket that can hold up to 10 multiple independently targeted reentry vehicles, heavy ones, or 15 lighter ones. And this is the one that can do the, so I don't know. Supposedly it can fly in a path where we can't detect it. It can deploy dummies so our missile defense systems can't shoot it down. And it has, what do they call that? I always heard it described as depressed trajectory, but they use another term for it. Basically means we can't detect it until it's almost right on top of us. Oh, fractional orbital bombardment capability. So Russia has now become North Korea, where they want to do a weird fucking cartoonish weapons presentation where it was like, oh yeah, we didn't forget you had nuclear weapons. Trust me, no one forgets how crazy dangerous that is, that an unstable country like that has these massively powerful nuclear weapons that they want to continue to bomb Florida with. And this is, of course, we're expelling diplomats all over the place now because the Russians decided to poison people. That's an ongoing thing from what we talked about last week. And that got me to reading a book called A Very Expensive Poisoning, or A Very Expensive Poison.
Okay.
These were the people that killed the Russian dissident Litvinenko in London with polonium, which is a terrible way to die, and wildly dangerous to handle and use. And it only lasts 180 days or something, and then it turns back into lead. It's weird. I mean, I'm missing a few details there because I'm not a nuclear physicist. But yeah, the Russians decided this guy was an ex-KGB guy who hung out with expat Russians in London, and some guys came in and poisoned him with polonium, which originally was supposed to, I believe they thought it would be undetectable to do it that way because it emits very, very, very strong alpha radiation, but almost no other kind of radiation. and this like the Geiger counters and stuff you have, that only detects like gamma and other types of radiation, doesn't detect alpha radiation. But if it gets inside your body, it destroys your organs. You're fucked.
Yeah, is that the one? Yeah, there's some. I forget. Yeah, this must be alpha, but there's like alpha, beta, and gamma.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing about alpha radiation is like, to your outside of your body, it's fine because it can't break through your skin.
Yeah.
However, if you get it on the inside of your body, it can't leave your body.
No, you can't. Well, it'll just turn into lead eventually because it has a very short half-life, like 120 days.
Yeah.
But yeah, because it's what's the difference? It's because gamma radiation like goes through our body, and it's also ionizing, which means it does damage to our cells.
Yeah.
But alpha radiation, I forget it works in a similar way, but yeah, it's why your eyes are wet and your mouth is wet and you have skin. But basically that proofs you against alpha radiation. But yeah, it's millions and millions of dollars to make. It's I think they make like, what were they using it? Because only the Russians made it. Nobody, because we were using it. We used to use polonium for triggers in atom bombs. That's where they discovered, oh, this has a use. And the Curies, of course, discovered it back when they were, playing around with everything dangerous and poisonous and radioactive. But it doesn't really have any uses. The only thing you use it for now is certain kinds of electronics that are very sensitive to static. It's a component of something that helps keep static off of electronics. But electronics aren't really affected by that very much anymore. So it has a very limited scope. They made like a gram of it a year in Russia. Now that's all, but on paper, that's what they were selling it to the West for these anti-static devices. But they used like 11 grams or some preposterous amount, and they tried to kill this guy 3 times with it. And what they do is they just pour it down the drain when it didn't work, and of course it got trapped. And once you know what you're looking for, like they traced every cab these guys were in, every hotel they were in, because once they knew what to look for, it's really easy to trace it because it gives off such strong alpha radiation.
Yeah.
So that they like just track these guys down with this stuff. But yeah, it was something. It was considered it took them a while. They didn't believe the guy was poisoned at first. It took them a long time to recognize what they'd done to this guy. And then their question was why. It would be much less expensive just to shoot him in the head. Like, why are you using this exotic, bizarre, it's going to be traced right back to you. Because again, this is like the last people that were killed. It's like, you're the only people in the world that have this shit. Nobody else has it. Mafias and criminal organizations don't have it. Western intelligence services wouldn't use it. You're the only people that would do this, but the only people that could detect it are people that work in nuclear weapons and have the equipment to detect that, because just like I said, Geiger counters won't detect this. But it was just a really weird, sad story. And the fact that really there's never been any justice done. And the thing is, the guy who wrote the book is Luke Harding. He's a writer for The Guardian, and this happened in 2006. So this book's been a while being prepared, and some of it's almost salacious, like kind of has a hint of yellow journalism to it, but some of the stuff is pretty good. And
wait, what's yellow journalism?
Oh, you just like smear journalism,
okay.
kind of like National Enquirer is just pure fiction. This is not anything like that, but just journalism written to be sensational as much as it facts, enriching, I guess. I don't know, fact, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It seems
stretching the facts.
Yeah. It's just interpreting the facts in the most extreme way.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, death is upon us. It's like, well, no, we're all going to die, just not in the next 3 minutes, most of us. But yeah, so it's there's a little bit of that, but it's pretty interesting. And
I want to say they made, like, HBO made a movie basically about polonium poisoning. It was like, I think it was like Pu 286 or something like that. That was the name.
Although
Of it.
that was set up after the fall of the Soviet Union. That guy was a nuclear engineer. You could weaponize that.
Oh,
That was a different thing. It was still lethal dust, but it was you could make, I forget what Pu, you could make it into a nuclear weapon if you had.
Okay.
It was pretty much refined and ready to be enter the last manufacturing phase. And this guy was trying to sell it, but because that was based on something that a guy really did, but he wasn't. This guy in the story was sad too because he got tangled up with the Russian mafia and then killed. And then the two guys were snorting the powder at the end of the show because they thought it was like cocaine. They're like, "Yeah, this didn't really do anything." You know, like they'd be dead as hell in 2 days. But no, this that was based on a guy who was stealing weapons grade material, and he put it in his garage because he knew that the sensors were so bad in the place he was working, he could just walk out with like weapons grade material. But he was putting it in his garage and storing it there and just waiting for the right time to sell it. But he was putting it in like a metal box. And what happened was the kid next door got leukemia, and that like people started getting really fucking sick that lived around this guy. And it figured out what was going on was he had it in a metal box, but he kind of put it in his shed, and when it would rain, the water would run through the box and go into the drain pipe. And they had to tear down like 11 houses around his because there's so much radioactive contamination there. But so, yeah, that was sort of loosely based on some things that really happened right after the fall of the Soviet Union.
Oh, okay.
When these guys weren't getting paid, and they're like, wait a minute, I have access to nuclear bomb material. Somebody wants to buy this. Luckily, so far that we know of, it's never happened, but so far. But no, this book basically makes the case that the only guy who could have ordered this and authorized this just because of the cost of it alone and the weirdness of it was Putin.
Yeah.
Like this goes, because that's the indictment of this book, is like this goes right to the top. This isn't like the Committee for State, or no, it's not called that. The FSB now. This is not them just kind of acting on their own to keep the boss happy. This is the boss has to authorize this because it was wildly expensive and just like a lot of Russian things overthought, like in their minds, oh, this is clever. They'll never figure this out. But nobody pointed out, but if they do, the arrow points right at us. It doesn't, there's no chance of us denying this, even though we're going to continue to deny it. But there's a lot of compare and contrast with today and how things were then and just how more and more unstable the Russian regime is getting. It's like where they feel they're so threatened by because people who live in this country talk shit about America. Nobody cares. No one's poisoned, Noam Chomsky with polonium yet. So it just goes to show you how fragile some of the egos are over there and how dangerous those people can be. Because they're reacting to just people who say dissonant things about like we don't know the country's run by criminals. It's like they don't say it aloud. It's not true. It's very bizarre. And this guy goes through some of the more bizarre, because again, it's one of these things. It's like, okay, we've got a multi-million-dollar exotic assassination weapon. Who are we going to have do it? Couple of idiots. People that like show up in the nice parts of London, and there are friends of this guy, and it's all these kind of Russian oligarchs that are hiding out in England because they're mad at Putin and he's taking everything away from them. And so he's kind of in that community. But then you have these guys who are obviously like operatives, but not very good ones. It's like, we're going to go to fancy restaurants and I'm going to wear like a hot pink shirt, Adidas tracksuit pants, and big nugget jewelry. And like the one lady was in an elevator, this Australian lady looked at these two guys and she's like, "Are you from the KGB?" And they immediately like got really upset. Like, no, say this. And they go hide out in their room. And she was so weird at it because she was making a joke. She's like, "You guys look like classic fucking Russian gangster people." and she goes and talks to the manager at the hotel. These guys are acting really weird, and he told her what she said, and, or she told him what she said, and he just laughed it off. But then later it was like, oh, these were the guys that were, you know, killing this dude, and they would, it's just like a lot of this Russian stuff. It's like, this isn't Ming the Merciless here. It's not some nefarious multi-level scheme. These people are just thugs. This is like if the Sopranos ran a country with nuclear weapons. It's like, yeah, we're gonna send Vinny and Bobby over there. We're gonna polonium this fucker, you know, and they're like wearing track suits and big, you know, like gaudy jewelry, and there's it's just a typical weird cast of characters. But yeah, it's and then like when they had the public trial in 2000, I forget, it was right before, like 6 months before Cameron left office in Great Britain. They had this, they're going to have a public hearing about this guy being murdered on British soil with this exotic weapon. And what does Russia do? They fly Bear bombers as close to England as they have since any time in the Cold War. Just like to send a message to the courts like, hey, don't talk about this in public. And of course they send interceptors up to like, what the hell are you guys doing? But it's like, oh, and you know where that came from too, is like, there's no, like, that wasn't some Russian air colonel like, I'm gonna defend Putin's honor by flying committing an act of war against NATO. No, it was him. He ordered that, and it just stirred everything up. And it's just, it talks about all the aggressive stuff that goes on, and all the people they've killed through various means. I mean, the KGB and the FSB have a division. It's called, they changed the name to something innocuous, but through the 50s, it was known as the Division of Poisoning and Assassination. Literally, that's how it translated. It's like, now it's called like the FSB.
It's like some Mel Brooks shit.
Oh yeah, it is. It really is. It's like we in novels and spy movies, they make the Russians seem like these, you know, super capable, and they are intelligent. I'm not going to say you can't be dumb and make polonium and have some of the stuff they do. Their first part is great. It's the follow through that is just so odd. In
look what our geniuses have made. Oh, that's really dangerous. Give it to the schmucks.
To the idiots. The proletariat. Give it to the proletariat. It'd be like us giving, like, you know, nuclear artillery shells to hillbillies or something. Like, well, we're gonna go kill us some Ruski. You know, it's like, oh my god. But yeah, there's a lot. But now it's called like the FSB.
Faith
Bureau.
demands sacrifice.
Yeah. No, but they basically have a bureau that makes poison and ways to assassinate people. And because they killed the guy, and there's a long history of killing dissident Russians in the UK. Because remember, they shot the guy with the umbrella with the ricing dart. They did that in the 70s or 80s. And then there's other things. There's probably killed a lot of people there, but they haven't done. They just, you know, instead of like using exotic poisons, again, just use a shotgun, strangle them. It's like these methods all work too. It's not like you're trying to kill Superman. It's like we have to put kryptonite in his coffin. Like, no, people die pretty easy if you know what you're doing. But I mean, I'm sure in the CIA we have a division of poisoning and assassination. I'm sure we do, but we don't like publicly. Not yet. You know, we're in weird times right now, but I don't think that.
Like, what, I don't know. Wasn't that a joke in like JFK, or it's Joe Pesci's character talking about, "I'll make a chemical that make Castro's beard fall off," and that's like if you actually follow, like there's actually some plan for from the CIA to like make some drug to give to Castro so his beard falls off, so then like he wouldn't have as much of a commanding presence to his country, or some stupid shit like that.
Oh yeah, there's all kinds of stuff. It's like in Russia, especially in Moscow, where this journalist was, the guy who wrote the book. The FSB would break into his apartment all the time, but they do weird shit like, because a lot of times in Russia, if you're a foreigner living there, you have to pay for everything in cash. And he was a journalist because you can't really access their banks. There's all kinds of weird shit that goes on there. So he just kept large sums of cash in a drawer. And he went to his apartment, and it was obvious that somebody had broke in. And what they did was they put a teddy bear on his son's bed, and then they left the window open in his son's room, which, you know, was like a 12-story fall. This is a weird message, like, we know you have a kid, and he can be chucked out a window if we decide to do it. But the drawer full of cash, nobody touched it. They do things like they'd go crap in your toilet and not flush it while you were gone. You'd just leave the house, go do your thing, come back, and there's a bowl full of shit, and you're like, what the hell? So they like to play games like that with people. East Germans did that a lot too. There's a book called The Firm that talks about all the strange stuff the Stasi did just to psychologically mess with people, things like that, other stuff. But yeah, it's almost like a clown car sometimes. Because like what they're doing is horrible, but how they achieve it it's almost ridiculous or incoherent. It's like, what message are they trying to send? I think so many people try to look so deep into this and they're so baffled by it. It's like, what does it really mean? It means they're basically a bunch of mobsters. They're basically a bunch of criminals who understand things like brute force and murder, but there's no subtlety to this. There's no fine art. This is just, this is just brutality, and it's murdering someone in a horrible way. I mean, it's the dying of massive organ failure over the course of weeks is not a clean death. But yeah, a very expensive poison. Check it out if you want to learn a lot about Russia. And
you said not available on Audible. I gotta read this one.
No, it is available on Audible.
Oh, okay.
That's how I listened to it, was on Audible.
Oh, okay. I thought you said.
Yeah, no, there was another one. It wasn't. But yeah, so that's my dose of Russia this week. So the Satan II missiles coming for us. They still use liquid-fueled missiles. That's weird.
Well, I was wondering, like, yeah, why was it liquid fuel? And then you were talking about how it has like some sort of like not necessarily erratic, but some sort of like pattern that makes it hard to hit.
It's basically it's like depressed trajectory is how it was explained to me, where it doesn't go high enough because you can always get around radar by staying low, and I think this one goes. I think it goes up in orbit, but it comes back down, but it comes back down sharply, so it never hits our radar cone.
Well, that's why I was wondering if that's why they used the liquid fuel rocket is to, because I know like with a solid fuel rocket, the thing about that is like it's just like once you start it, like it just burns all the fuel.
Yeah.
So I wonder if like because like with a liquid rocket, I wonder if it's something where it's like you can control more of the pattern or something like that. But I'm not a rocket scientist, so I don't know.
Well, check out the Arms Control Wonk podcast if you want to know anything actual PhDs about how weapon systems work, because they know, and it's fun to talk to. Never heard a podcast done by so many PhDs. Just makes me feel like, yes, Nathan, you have wasted your life. But good podcast if you're interested in stuff like this.
What's it called?
Arms Control Wonk. It's been featured on.
Are those British people doing this?
No, actually they're not. But they're people who work. Well, one of them works for. Is it a British think tank or something? I'm not sure.
Cambridge Analytica.
They've been featured on This American Life a few times.
Oh, okay.
Is like, oh, these are weird guys. They just talk about arms control and weapon systems, but they make it fun. There's a whole cottage industry around that of people who just have like multiple PhDs and like counterforce strategy, and so it's like, I didn't know you could study that. And it's like, yeah, oh yeah, at Harvard. Oh, okay. Sounds interesting.
I found some interesting recently about I'm not sure if this pertains to all their research, but we've been reading studies done in human computer interaction.
Mm-hmm.
And Harvard, I guess, is particularly egregious of this. They like to, so anytime you do a study, you have to kind of reference other research. You have to like sort of be like, we've read other studies that are pertaining to this. Like this is, because nothing's ever really like that novel. It's like, no one's ever done this before. We can't reference anything. Like, no, there's stuff out there. You have to reference something.
Yeah. It all goes back to Shakespeare eventually.
So Harvard loves to reference itself.
Okay.
So like it doesn't give any credit to any other study done by any other university if they've done something similar there, even though if it's not as pertaining to it, they just reference themselves because they want to make themselves look better.
Because nobody respects Harvard. They just gotta get out in the trenches and fight.
Oh wait, no, it wasn't Harvard. It was MIT.
Oh, am I okay?
MIT. Never mind.
Either way.
They probably do that at Harvard too.
Yeah. That's all that old school stuff. Literally old school. Very old schools.
Where were we?
I don't remember.
Arms control.
Yeah. Arms Control Podcast.
Or Arms Control Wonk?
Yeah, Arms Control Wonk.
Okay.
It's pretty interesting. Like I said, it makes you feel really dumb in a hurry. It's like, oh, these people are geniuses. But I think the reason I heard about it was because like This American Life is one of those PBS. It's like I think it's the most famous PBS podcast. But
yeah,
it's like they always reference stuff like, you don't have to be emotional and crazy and think the end of the world's coming. These are the people we listen to and we come up with our stuff. So there's a lot of things I listen to on This American Life. Like, who are these people? And the next thing I know, it's on my podcast list. And it's like, oh, the Arab-Israeli war was started because of what? You just find out all kinds of crazy shit. And, sometimes it's interesting, but then it also makes you never want to watch regular news again. It's like, oh, okay, yes, excite me, Wolf. Please tell me why the world's ending again. What do I need to do in the next 15 minutes to stave off apocalypse?
Jack off, gotcha.
Of course. Ding, we're done. But oh, and then what else was I doing? Oh yeah, back to I was talking about Patton Oswalt. I got 2 people I know to read Zombie Spaceship Wasteland, because we were talking about, of course, I remember last week I was going to do the Russian truck, the Sorcerer themed, try to make an homage to the movie Sorcerer by making a beat up delivery type, 4-ton military truck. And how we got on that is I went down there to get some stuff for paint chipping and other effects I wanted to do on this. And we were talking about what I was doing, and I was like, oh, it's from the movie Sorcerer. And it's like, pull up your computer, watch the trailer. It's kind of interesting. It's a Friedkin film. And then I said, Patton Oswalt said he wants a reboot of this movie because it's a cool idea. And then we talk about how much, oh yeah, Patton Oswalt, he's a cool guy. And so then the next thing you know, is I got him reading this book. So. But yeah, it all started off with a conversation at a model store about, this is how we're gonna make. This is what I'm gonna do. But then I got to thinking as I was making the model, it's like Sorcerer does need a reboot. We could do like a post-apocalyptic one, kind of, where these guys have to like get
just a Mad Max Sorcerer,
sort of. No, there would still be like an element of civilization.
You just need dilapidated roads.
Well, what I'm saying is you don't need to go, because as we were watching parts of the movie, and it's like, that they had to build that set, and it was like $1 million. The famous bridge scene where they're driving the trucks across, and the first one got destroyed, so they had to build another one for $1 million. And it was all in Costa Rica. And then I got to thinking later, fuck, we have enough crappy infrastructure here now. Right now, you wouldn't even need to make a set, and it's like
Just go down to Florida, have them build you a bridge.
it's like, yeah, let civilization partially collapse, and it's like we got to blow up the Hoover Dam to prevent something or make something happen, and you guys have to bring a nuclear weapon back across America, with our faded infrastructure in a truck. So yeah, we could do something like that with Sorcerer. It's a very applicable movie today.
They have to cross a dilapidated Golden Gate Bridge.
Yeah, instead of exactly. Instead of like some weird bridge in Costa Rica, make it the Golden Gate Bridge, because that's where we're headed.
You could do a fucking 45-minute action scene if you're using the goddamn Golden Gate Bridge.
Oh yeah, putting planks down the holes.
It's like, well, that's the first 20 feet. And then they get attacked midway through.
Yeah, by like mutant punks or something. Or bankers. I mean, you just go wild. It's all social commentary.
While someone's committing suicide.
Yeah. Somebody's jumping off. So yeah, I think my model I might build a mock-up of a Mark 48 and put it in the back of it. Put some radiation symbols on it. Was this in that movie? It's like, no, that was in the movie I imagined in my mind. I tend to do things like this.
Who's your casting?
I don't even.
Who's your modern day? I tried to grab his name. I can't remember. Roy
Scheider.
Scheider.
Oh,
yeah.
Chris Pratt.
Chris Pratt?
Yeah. No, I don't know. I haven't thought it. You need some guy who's really
Bryan Cranston.
Luck. Yeah, that could work. You need a Frenchman. You need a Middle Eastern guy. You need an American, and you need a local character.
So you get Bryan Cranston. Who's that South African dude? He's like in all the like
District 9 guy.
Yeah.
What is it?
Chartel Copley? That's his name.
Yeah,
right?
something like that. Yeah, I know he had one of those weird names.
Get him.
Who's the Middle Eastern guy? You could have the guy who played Dr. Bashir on Deep Space Nine. He
Okay.
shows up as a character. And then Mel Gibson. Guy, the local guide. Because why not?
Yeah, he's not doing anything.
He's available. Pleasant to work with, I hear.
Oh, he was in somewhere. Oh, yeah. Wasn't there yeah, there was like, I think it's Daddy's Home? Somewhere. That was the one with Mark Wahlberg and Will Ferrell. I think he was in those movies. Like, he's like Mark Wahlberg's dad or some shit, I think.
Oh.
Yeah. I have no interest in either of the movie, either the original nor the new one, but I just remember that.
It could be fun. Be a fun reboot. How much would a movie like that cost?
It depends how you do it.
60 million?
Well, yeah, if you have a big set piece, it depends how much CGI you're doing.
I mean, probably wouldn't really do the Golden Gate Bridge.
No.
Not that.
I mean, you could do it on the cheap if you get like some, if you get an effects company that's like owned by a couple of owners and they're willing to like, we want to break into directing. It's like we can cut the budget in half if we let them direct.
I'll have to see what. Well, I don't know. I don't even know if you could do that because didn't William Friedkin had to sue the company because it was one of those like Blade Runner things where everyone misunderstood it when it came out. Then later it became popular because people were like, that's kind of a good movie. It's brutal and it's depressing, but that's a good movie. And then nobody had the rights to it, but everyone said they did. So everyone was suing each other because you couldn't get that on a decent DVD copy until like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Because nobody had the rights to it, supposedly.
Yeah, when we watched it, the only way I came by it is I believe I had to Netflix it. Like back when I actually got DVDs from Netflix. I don't remember how you got it though.
I have an actual. We've never talked about it.
No, we've done like a show about it. That was back
About
in
Sorcerer?
yeah, back in the Phil days.
Oh, I don't remember that because I have a DVD of it. I thought we couldn't do it because you couldn't find a way to watch it, and I was going to mail a DVD to you because I paid like $34 for a DVD that was an obvious VHS transfer.
Yeah, I believe I got it like back when I got DVDs from Netflix, or I may have just found it on YouTube because I've done that for some of those stuff. Because I remember like when we did 2010, like I just found it on YouTube and that's how I watched it. Boy, Roy Scheider movies.
Yeah, our
Peter Berg, Roy Scheider movies.
Yeah.
It's like that and Peter Berg. So it's no, it's not Peter Berg. Shit, I can't remember that guy's name. He did 2010. He did their space station with shotguns.
Outland.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Outland. Almost great movie.
Yeah, well, no, that is a good movie, but like it's a lot of that guy, the director who did it. No, Peter Hyams, that's it.
Peter Hyams. Yeah, I was gonna say Peter Berg.
Peter Berg is a big director now. He did like The Rundown and Soul Survivor. He did that fucking Battleship movie, which is way better than it has any right to be, and still a terrible movie.
It's visually interesting. Just fast forward a lot.
Yeah.
It's visually interesting. If you like the Battleship Missouri, it's a great movie. Because I wondered when that movie came out, I was always wondering, because I didn't know and I didn't go watch it. I watched it later at home on HBO because Sunday and depression, so let's watch that. But I always wondered, like, why are they calling this movie Battleship? They don't have battleships anymore because it was set in the modern times. It's like, if this was in the 40s or the 50s, yeah, they had battleships, and then it's like, oh, they're gonna go bring the Missouri back. That's kind of cool, because the Missouri is kind of a cool ship.
Yeah.
Actually, all those Iowa class battleships were sort of cool when you read about them, but then you're like, oh, that's just a hole in the water that we poured money into. My God, was that shit outrageous and expensive? But, well, I mean, nuclear aircraft carriers are even more so. But when you realize some of the things that could do, it's like, holy shit, they really thought that out. Because I don't know if you ever heard about people always postulate, like, what if the Missouri and the Yamato went head to head? Well, that would never be allowed to happen because that's, but if they did, because everyone always said, oh, the Yamato would destroy it. And it's like, oh, no, it's faster than the Yamato. It can outturn the Yamato because they talked about how they designed it. And it's like, because they weren't big battleships. They were big, but they weren't the biggest.
Yeah.
But they were fucking fast for as big as that thing was. It could move and turn, and those guns were no joke, and it was made to fire. Because we always built weird shit into our stuff, like everything fires on the move. That was like a uniquely American thing. Because even in World War II, our tanks could fire on the move. They weren't quite as effective as they are now, where they could like shoot a dime off of an eagle's head at 10 miles or whatever crazy. Like the Abrams, I guess, can move full blast and fire and hit what it's shooting at.
Yeah.
But even the Sherman tanks were gyro stabilized. Like the German tanks were not. They had to stop and shoot if they wanted a chance of really hitting something. But the Sherman tanks could move and fire. It wasn't as effective as now. But we did that with all kinds of shit. Like, oh, it's got to be able to move and fire. Everyone else was like, nah, stop, shoot. It's like, no, you're just a fucking target when you do that. Stop. But yeah, that's bad movie, but it's like, yeah, that ship could probably actually do half the shit they showed in that movie where they just turn it around all of a sudden. And of course it would probably in real life just sink as soon as they tried to move it. Fucking 70, 80 years old. I don't know, the Constitution's back, so that's still sailing.
Which one's that?
The wooden ship.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah.
The original battleship. They say only 2% of that is left now.
Was that the ship of Theseus?
What's that?
That's where it was like you repair a ship over the time that by the end of it, like, is it even the original ship with if every part has been changed?
Oh, I've never heard that term.
I
But
think
yeah.
it's Ship of Theseus. I think that's the whole thing.
Oh, okay. Well, yes, the Constitution, I think, there's like maybe an anchor and part of the wheel that's original, because they still take that out, like when they have their Navy festival or whatever, and
Yeah.
like, oh, there's an aircraft carrier, there's the Constitution, and it's like, yeah, it's really there.
Yeah, I had a bit, some more stories from Sea of Thieves, but not too much. I did figure out the eventual thing, the problem with the not having enough chicken coops. I found that you could just go back to whatever you set up your quest, you can, the merchant you're near, you can like go to them and you can get 2 of them, get 2 or how many of you need, they'll give them all to you. I don't know if they like fixed that or if it was just me. I don't know. I could have just been stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's one where like I went to the island and I had like 6 coops, and like I just found them, and I just like found skull, because you can find these skulls, like glowing green skulls, and you can turn them in for points. I found like silk, and I just like found all this shit on this island. I was like there forever, and I was just like, oh shit, I hope nobody's like finds me, because like I got a bunch of shit. They want to steal it. Then nothing happened. Then so yeah, I turned all that stuff in. It's like, oh cool, I made a bunch of money. But then I got into one encounter, but I met this. It was like 4 of them, and they had a ship. Or they had a ship like mine, so it's a smaller ship. And so like they were like able to chase me. Actually, I think at first they just blew up. They just like blew up my ship or something.
Yeah.
And then I like tried to do something cool. I tried to like pull up to their ship while they were docked at a boat, because like I like respawned my ship, and it was like outside, and I went back to the island I was at, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna fire on them. And like I ended up like I tried to like pull right alongside them while they're like off on the island selling shit, but I guess I still had a guy in the boat. And as I was about to fire my cannon at him, he like fired it at me, and it knocked me off my cannon, and I didn't get to fire at him. I was like, oh, that sucks. And so then they were like chasing me. So it's just me, and at some point like they killed me again, and like some guy was trying to steal my boat, which you can't do in the game. Like the boat only belongs to one person, and then like you always respawn on it. So there was like one guy in the boat, so I just killed him and took my boat back. And then they were chasing me again, and I went to like an island, and there's like these forts, and they have like these towers that come up out of the ocean, and they have cannons on them. And sometimes there's enemies there, and they'll like fire at you. But anyways, I drove my boat by one of those, and I jumped off my boat. Well, actually, I fired myself out of the cannon at one of the towers. And then, like, I didn't have control of my boat anymore because I wasn't on it. Because, like, they had 4 people and it was just me. So then I got in that tower and there's a cannon up there. And so as they're chasing my boat, as it's running away, I'm firing at them from the tower. And then there's, like, and then where you get, like, far enough away from your boat, there's, like, a mermaid that you can find, and they'll, like, respawn you on your boat. So then I got back on my boat, and then I was, like... Then, like, I dropped anchor and did, like, a really sharp turn and, like, fired at him and actually hit him. But, like, because there's 4 of them on the boat, like, they can repair it real quickly. So, like, it really didn't matter. So, at some point, it just really wasn't that fun anymore. So, like, I just, like, raised the mast, or raised the, what do you call those? The sails. So I wouldn't be going as fast. And I just, like, went to what's the pointy end of the bow? Does it have a name to it?
Let's see.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, the prow or something.
Yeah, is it the prow? Okay.
I could be wrong.
So I just walked on the end of that, and it made my character fall asleep on it. And so my character was just sleeping, waiting for death. And then, like, they had like sniper rifles, like, because they can shoot from the boat. They couldn't actually hit me with a cannon because like we're moving too fast, and the cannon's affected by pretty heavily by the ocean.
The waves and the movement. Okay.
So it's really easy to miss with because there's no like reticle when you're aiming the cannon. It's really hard to aim with it. So yeah, they just had guns and they just like shot my sleeping character while he's sleeping on the prow of the boat. And then I turned it off for the night. It's like I don't know. It's like I really need to play this with somebody. It's not really fun by myself.
Oh, well, that's good.
But it was kind of fun to try to like use all the mechanics to my advantage. Like, all right, it's 4 against 1. I'm obviously not going to win here, but I can like try to have fun. So I like the, suddenly coming up with the idea of like I'm going to make them chase a boat that I'm not on and shoot at them.
That's kind of how I view life. I'm not going to win, but I'm going to have fun. I found out some more about Iron Harvest this week.
It's Iron Harvest.
It's the one. Remember the game, the board game Scythe?
Oh, okay.
Had really amazing artwork. Well, I guess this is not related to that, but it just takes place in the same world. And they've come up with new factions now, or factions that are going to be in the game. So that's kind of interesting. You've got the Saxony Empire, that's obviously Germans. The Polania Republic, which is Poland. It actually looks like the symbol of Poland. And then to the east, you have the Russviet. What that means? Because I know that's the Russians, but is that like Imperial Russia? Are they Soviet? Are they both? I don't know. But, it's walking mechs in 1912, so they can kind of play with it. But, yeah, I thought this was going to be like a continuation of things that happened in Scythe, but it isn't. So.
Oh, okay.
So we'll see what happens with that. I'm looking forward to that. Or not. Depends. Depends on what I feel like, how much time do I have to sit around on my Xbox.
Oh, yeah. Was that... Did you say that was getting kickstarted?
Yeah, they've pretty much...
Oh, you said it already made its goal?
Yeah, well, now they have new challenge goals.
Oh, okay.
Like because they're up to $1 million, but if they get up to $1.5 million, it makes a full... it's like a full multiplayer and all that with all the free DLC and the...
Oh, okay.
But right now they're funded enough to make an independent or like a game mode you'd play at home, not with other people.
Okay.
But just like a campaign and then skirmish mode and just, your basic RTS games. So, but we'll see where it goes. I've seen a lot of people are getting like betas and even alphas of what it's going to look like, and I listened to some of their podcasts and watched some of their YouTube videos and. It looks pretty good. So, I mean, they got like $6.5 million to make it. So, we'll see what happens.
It's not a lot, but
yeah, it's 25. Well, because they actually break down the cost structure and stuff on their website because it's 25 people. And it's going to have a PC, an Xbox, and a PS4 version.
Okay.
And but again, the more money they get, the more they develop.
Yeah.
Because the $5 million was what they had internally, and then the Kickstarter is the bonus.
Oh, I didn't know they were coming in with money. Okay, well.
Yeah, they've published other games on Kickstarter and made money. It's just the research cycle on this, I guess, was a long time because they're paying a bunch of money to have writers too. So. It's not
that's
just
good.
A bunch of computer programmers. It's actually because it's based on art. See, Scythe is just based on the artwork of this Polish guy.
Yeah,
who just started doing this art, very similar in veins to like the Electric State and Tales from the Loop and that kind of that just static art picture books with like, oh, this is a weird scenario. Like these are people that look like from like peasants with a giant mech standing behind. It's like, what's this? Because it looks like classic art.
Yeah.
But then it's got these weird elements, and then that's where Scythe came from. Was the people like the artwork? It's like we're gonna make a tabletop game, and then Iron Harvest is the same thing. It's like, oh, we like the artwork. We're gonna make a real-time strategy game. So, yeah. So that's the how I followed up on that. So I've actually bothered to follow up on that and do research. So I'm probably going to end up buying it whenever it comes out, and then never have time to play it.
Yeah, I stopped kickstarting games. When did I stop? I think I've only kickstarted one game. No, I had two. Massive Chalice was the last one I kickstarted.
Oh, okay. Why did you stop?
I don't know, just things. There's been a lot of Kickstarter games that haven't really fulfilled their promises.
Oh, everyone's really excited, but when the rubber meets the road,
Well, I remember that first big one was when Double Fine put out that they did a Kickstarter for that Broken Age one, and
okay.
It's a fine game for what it is.
Right.
But yeah, I think they got like $5 million for that, and it's not necessarily like, a huge game or anything like that. It's like totally fine. But like what's really cool about it was the documentary they did about it, which is really interesting, where it's, they go through how to develop a video game and like all the changes that can happen and all the pitfalls and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
you realize how, this is how you burn through $5 million. And it's not even like they don't even get $5 million, because then they tell you it's like, well, after taxes, because this is like income or what, I forget how it gets, but like they basically like they get like, after all that's said and done, they basically get $3 million to make the game.
Yeah, they're not some 801c organization where it's a donation, and like, no, they're doing this to make money. And they're in San Francisco. They have like 40 people on staff, and like, that's like how many like thousands of dollars a month of just employee costs and all that stuff on top of that. It's like, oh yeah, you just burn like, and there's been like Kickstarter games where like, yeah, it's just two guys making it, and it's like they got $3 million to do it. It's like, yeah, it's like they can cut them themselves, they could, with $3 million of like, yeah, you can see the cost of like, this guy already has the computer. It's not like he's buying more stuff or anything like that. It's like you're just paying the guys to live and make the video game. But yeah, you're paying their living expenses while they're making a game.
Yeah.
Which is insanely fucking difficult for two people to do.
But it's why there's a lot of like weird shit in video games, especially with like how employment works and stuff like that. Because like businesses basically hate video games.
Yeah.
Because it's like, okay, you're gonna spend 4 years and how much money? And it's like, and almost no video game gets to like the cost to make a movie.
Yeah.
But it's still like, oh, you're making a AAA game. Here's $20 million. It just disappears for 4 years.
Right.
And then when it comes back around, it's like, it might make a profit. So like fucking, they hate that shit.
Yeah, there's not good metrics in that. I can measure like, okay, I've invested X amount and how far along are we? And yeah, I see what you're saying.
But I mean, that's basically like why Konami got out of video games, is that whole process. Because like Metal Gear Solid 5 was the most expensive game they ever made. And even though it made money back for them, they didn't like, $25 million being on hold for 4 years.
Yeah, nobody likes that this 10-year reciprocal profit may or may not happen.
But then there's stuff like like WoW or the the free to play games where like they just they call it like games as services. That's what they call them now.
Yeah,
where it's kind of like an ongoing game. There's updates, stuff like that. There's a lot of the free to play games, and they just sell cosmetics and stuff like that. And those can be huge cash cows, and that's what businesses love. It's like, okay, we make one game, and now it makes money for 10 years.
Yeah, we just come up with upgrades every so often.
Yeah.
Kind of like the cell phone business.
Yeah.
Where it's like sort of apex technology now, unless the networks get a lot better. but it's like we can make it look cool and we can put more whiz bang in it, and maybe it'll burst into flames on an aircraft. We don't know. Fuck. Take your chances. Yeah, because I played around with what was it? An iPhone X or an iPhone 10. I don't know what they're trying to say there, but it's like, yeah, this is cool. This is just a thinner, faster version of the 8 that I have, and it doesn't have a home button.
Just your face.
Face can unlock it, which I have a bunch of facial hair, so I've heard.
I can't wait till the horror movie that like follows up with that technology comes out.
Or just somebody takes somebody's face off and wears it on their phone. I like all those internet rumors that came. Remember they had I don't know if it was true or not, but I know it wasn't true because it was just racist internet talk. But they said in China the iPhone X was a huge failure because everyone looked at the phone and unlocked for them. It's like, come on, that's not true, is it?
I forget, they say there's some unique thing about like the bridge of your nose and your eyes, and that's basically all it measures. It's not really that unique. Of like,
it's not looking at your whole face. But yeah, that was kind of funny.
But then I think there's some people that like just were able to unlock it by just like taking a Facebook photo and printing it out and holding it up to the phone.
Oh yeah.
I can't remember because I don't know if it has like depth of. I don't know if it has any depth to the camera or whatever. If it can detect like, if it's like one of those, like a Kinect camera almost, where it can detect depth, or if it's just reading 2-dimensionally and then it just can't discern between a photo and a face.
I don't know. It was. I could see why it was cool. I'll get it when it's free. I'm not gonna run out and like
blow $1,000.
Take my money, rape me.
Here's $1,000 for the base model.
Yeah.
Do you want more memory? That's $1,200.
These things have a lot of memory now, though.
Yeah.
I was surprised, like 0.5 terabyte in the top model. I don't know. Yeah. Technology doesn't interest me anymore. I don't see any latest and greatest. Of course, it's all kind of, it's kind of sort of topped out as far as, because it used to be bigger, better, faster, and then that died off. And now nobody even cares. Everything's a cell phone now. Like, I've had a bunch of Apple computers over the years, and my last 3 have essentially looked identical. Their guts are different, but it's the same thing. Yeah. And laptops are dying, and home computers are dying, and now everything wants to be a cell phone.
Yeah, it's all just cell phone.
But that's kind of, it's Apex too, so.
I mean, it's how you can do everything from your cell phone, where like you can expect, because like there's all these technologies that, I mean, even like your Fitbit and stuff like that, where it's like, where like the genius of that is like, oh shit, we can build something for $12 and put an app on your phone, and then all the important stuff is just done on your phone. It's just sent from the cheap watch that you pay $100 for.
Yeah.
Because all like the Fitbit will use is like, it's got like an accelerometer and some other things on there. It's like, that's like a 5-cent part in China.
Yeah.
It's just how they, design the hardware to like interpret that stuff and send it to your phone. Because I mean, remember like when you got stuff, not even like 10 years ago, like say like a GPS unit and stuff like that. It's like, okay, you have to build something with a screen. Everything has to screen. Now nothing needs a screen anymore.
Nope.
So like that's $50 to $100 like off the parts cost list. It's because you can just expect everyone to have a cell phone. And a smartphone, So.
Yeah. Yeah, the last of the flip phone guys are dying out around here. The networks are driving them off. So, but yeah, that's kind of sad.
And also, like, you got the 2-factor authentication stuff where it's like, oh, like you always have your phone on you. It's like you're a person and a phone.
This is me. This is my brain. I'm just the entertaining meat sack that carries this thing around. sometimes not so entertaining. What else? Wow, shit. There was something I was going to add to that. I can't think of what it was. Oh, well, screw it. Must not have been that important.
All right, Roseanne or Far Cry 5?
Let's do Far Cry 5.
All right. So just got Far Cry 5.
Yeah, and then this is...
But, I don't know, there's a lot of good gameplay changes. Where it's more like natural discovery this time around. Because it used to be a thing, there'd be these regions, and like you'd find a tower there, and you'd climb the tower, and then that would reveal like missions on your map.
Yeah.
So this, like, it just has like NPCs walking around where, like, as you're going wherever you feel like, you can just like happen upon missions. So there's no more of the tower thing. Except one. You do have to climb one tower, and the guy tells you, I'm not going to make you climb all these towers again. Like, you're good this time around. But, like, the interesting thing about the towers in the other games is that they kind of had puzzle elements to them. They're kind of like light platforming puzzles.
Okay.
This time around, they changed it to the Prepper Stashes. That's kind of their puzzle game where you have to, like... There's one where the stash is flooded, so then you have to, like... You have to, like, follow a power line down to, like, a boathouse, and there's, like, a thing in the boathouse. But the boathouse is locked, but then you can, like, swim underneath because there's, like, a little bay inside the boathouse. You just swim underneath there and come up. Yeah.
Okay.
And you just come up through there, and then you power this pump, and then the pump will, like, pump all the water out of the Prepper Stash area, which is basically just a fallout shelter.
Okay.
And then you go there and you get a bunch of stuff. So those are really cool. There's a lot of different things like that where, like, every Prepper Stash is different. It's a different puzzle to solve. Like, one of them I had to, it's like I had to get on the roof. There's an opening in the roof, but there's no way inside the building. But there's, like, a tower nearby, and you get a wingsuit. So, like, I climbed the tower, and I kind of, like, flew myself over to the top of the building, and then, like, I made my way in through there. And I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. Stuff like that. And they have just hunters walking around because, like, you fight animals because animals are, like, killing anybody they see. So that happens. So you'll save people from animal attacks, or you'll just let the animals, like...
Story reason for this?
No, it's just here in Montana, and there's wilderness there.
Oh, okay.
They've had animals in all the games, so it's not a new thing. A lot of times there'd be an outpost in the other games, and you'd come upon the outpost, and you kind of, like, you pull out your binoculars, and you kind of mark all the people, and it's like, all right, I know where everybody is, and then you'll see, like, oh, there's, like, a tiger in a cage, and it's like, oh, if I shoot the cage from here, the cage will open, and the tiger will just, like, kill everybody inside the compound, and then, like, I take over the compound.
I see. Okay.
So stuff like that where you can use the animals to your advantage. And there used to be stuff where, like, if you hunt the animal, then you can, like, use their skin and stuff like that to then upgrade your ability to, like, hold more ammo and stuff like that.
Oh, okay. So you can make a shotgun bandolier out of tiger skin. Huh?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
Or always a weird thing, like, there's something where you can only carry so much money, and you have to go kill a shark to get a bigger wallet, which made no sense.
Shark skin wallet.
So here they have they have hunters that are just walking around, and they're just like stores. So that makes it easy. Like, you don't have to always go back to, like, a main base area to, like, get new weapons and stuff like that. They just have them walking around the area. So yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff just where you just need to walk around. There's, like, way too many people in this Montana area to be Montana. Because they want to give you people to kill, so...
Yeah. So instead of, like, the real Montana where it's one person every 5 miles...
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of a crowded militia area or whatever it is.
Well, there'll be militia driving around, but then also there'll be, like, just normal-ass people driving around.
Okay.
And then sometimes if they catch each other, like, the militia always, like, chase after, like, the normal people because they'll, like, try to convert them. And then if you shoot down the militia before they can get to them, then, like, you'll get points in the area. because like there's certain each area has its own like bar where it's like the more you do things like free people or stuff like that or complete missions, you get like more of this bar, and then like you can unlock more stuff, like just more weapons and stuff like that, and then eventually it'll let you fight the last boss in that area. So yeah, it's a pretty cool game. It's plays really good and looks really nice. The story is kind of, I guess, where it falls apart.
All right.
Also, I was kind of, because they were saying like, okay, this is gonna take place in America. It's like, oh, that's fucking cool. How are they gonna do this? It's like Montana. All right, remote place, and then it's like, are they gonna set it in like the 70s or something like that? It's like, no, it's modern times. Like, all right, I guess whatever. And they say it's like in a valley, so that way where it's like, oh, cell phone reception sucks. And it's like, that's how people can't get contacted outside to tell them that there's a cult taking over an entire county of Montana. But then there's certain missions where it's like, oh, clearly this has been like, it's like, all right, how long have I been here? It's like, I'll accept this if this takes place over like a 48-hour period, but it's clearly weeks have gone by and nobody has come to the aid of these people in modern times.
Yeah, in the United States.
So that's where it like loses its reality. But it doesn't necessarily have to have that. But yeah, it was kind of like, this doesn't really make sense, because like it seemed like they could have like formulated this like, okay, this takes place over 2 days. We can, hey, we can shut off communication for 2 days.
Yeah, nobody really noticed that.
It's just Montana, so who cares? So yeah, it comes off as a weird, like, the game kind of feels like almost like an apocalyptic kind of like mini apocalypse that just takes place inside of Montana. Very Mad Max kind of thing where just shit's just going crazy.
I saw some advertisements for it that look kind of funny. Slow motions, like a truck driving through a barn, and this guy's just giving narration. All kinds of crazy shit happens around here.
Yeah, there's one mission where you like, there's one guy who's basically supposed to be Alex Jones, so there's that. Also, the whole cult people are basically charmless. Just kind of where like a lot of this game falls apart.
Oh, they're not charismatic where you can see people will follow them.
No. There's one guy, he's kind of weirdly funny, and he's like he has like a model. It's like say yes to yes. It's like say yes to everything. Like kind of those like fucking like self-help guru people.
Yeah.
That's the only guy that's kind of encapsulating, but the main guy, he's just awful. It's like, who the fuck would follow this guy? Say that he monologues at you while you're in a cell. He's talking about, like, he shows you a tattoo of his wife he has on his arm, and I think she died in childbirth. And he tells you about basically how his daughter was like hooked up to a machine to help her breathe, and then he just like pinches it closed and kills his daughter, and then like talks about that was like his sacrifice that it needed to be made for a greater good or something like that. It's like this isn't endearing me to you.
It's a psychopath that kills children.
But like the opening, like it's the opening's effective is like, because the part where like you go in there to arrest him.
Yeah.
Because there's like a video of like one of their undercover agents being captured by him. So it's like, oh, you're holding somebody hostage. Like, we're going to arrest you. And so you go to arrest him, and then you're walking out, and he's like telling all the people to be calm. And then there's like the helicopter starts taking off. People start climbing on the helicopter, and you're like kicking them off and stuff. And eventually just one of the guys climbs on the front of the helicopter and just jumps into the helicopter blade.
Just to stop the helicopter?
Yes.
Okay, well, that's one way to do it.
Which that's really, it was like, who the fuck, why? Okay, that's pretty fucked up. It's like, you don't have a lead pipe.
Yeah, I'd throw a piece of metal in there, a rake, almost anything you could imagine other than a human body.
So but then there's that main guy, but then there's the three areas, and it's like his siblings, and they all have different kind of avenues. So like there's the one self-help guru, there's the one guy he's a former military, and then there's like the sister who's like kind of a quasi pop star or something like that, and she has all the drugs and everything like that.
Okay.
I haven't been to her area yet. I did the army guy first. Which they really fucked up something with him, because they talk about like there's a part where you have to listen to him monologue, and his whole thing is like he needs to cull the herd. So he's about like about putting people through trials and making people kill each other, and the strongest like survives and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Real social Darwin.
Yeah. Yeah, and everyone just runs to that. I want to die in some gladiatorial combat to stroke your ego.
So you listen to a monologue, and he's talking about he's a veteran of the first Iraq War, and there's a part where he says 82nd Airborne, oorah. I'm like, well, you fucked that up. That's Army. Army doesn't say oorah. They say hua.
Oh, okay.
There's a difference.
I wouldn't have known that.
Yeah. I mean, it's if you're not in the military, that's something easy to mix up if you don't know the difference between the branches. And even when you're in the military, that's something easy to fuck up. So. Except for oorah. If you're a Marine, you know oorah. And you make fun when people say hua, because that's stupid.
What does gung ho come from? What's that?
I don't know.
Marines.
Is it Marines?
Yeah. It's you guys have Semper Fi.
Yeah.
Which is Latin for
always faithful.
And yeah, gung ho was a Marine thing, I'm sure.
It's not Semper. It's Semper Fidelis, but we always shorten it to Semper Fi.
Yeah. I know I read some book about the Korean War where they only said it once though.
Oh.
And then you have this term where people always use that. Well, they're all gung ho for X, Y, or Z, and
I've read a ton of books about it. I haven't come across that because I read that.
Right across it once.
Huh. I think because I read that
information gathering service we have in front of us.
Well, I remember I read that book, that huge book about the Korean War called This Kind of War. And I don't remember that part, but that could be easily missed because that book's like fucking 30 hours long.
2,100 pages.
But it's super fascinating. So yeah, that's I haven't completed it yet. I just beat the one army guy. I completed his area. You get companions this time around too, which is kind of fun. They have all different kinds of abilities and stuff. I have the one chick with a bow and arrow. Yeah, that's one of those stupid things here. So you can put a silencer on a gun, but if you shoot somebody with a gun, if somebody sees the dead body, it basically just alerts the whole base. So it's like, what's the advantage of having the fucking silencer on the gun?
Right.
But if you kill somebody with a bow, they're just like weird. The people are just weirded out by it. Like they don't alert the whole base. Because it's specifically annoying because there's parts where it's like you have to rescue people. So there'll be like 20 guys you'd have to kill before like they kill them, the people that are being held hostage. And like it's like, oh, I'm just killing everybody with a science rifle. That's cool. But like, no, you kill one guy with a science rifle. Somebody notices the body, then they just start killing everybody. It's like that's not fair. I mean, I guess it more or less makes sense, but in a gameplay sense, that shouldn't be happening. You should give me the advantage because I was being, silent about it. But say if you can melee kill people, or you can use a bow and arrow, then you can more or less do it without alerting the entire area. But it's weird. Also, there's a thing they've been doing in the other games called chain takedowns, where it's like if you happen upon a guy. You sneak up on him, you can do a melee kill, and then if another guy's close by, you just like hold a direction, you'll just like kill that guy immediately, or you'll throw a machete or something like that. So they have something similar here where you have this time around you don't just have like a machete, you can like pick up weapons. You have like baseball bats, just pipes and shit like that.
Yeah.
And I don't think it tells you at all to do this, but there'll be a thing where you have to unlock the ability. But you do a melee takedown, and it'll have a left trigger prompt will come up on screen as like, okay, if you hit left trigger, you'll kill the next guy. But you don't. What you do is, so like a left trigger, right trigger, it's kind of like aim down sights kind of thing.
Right.
So it tells you left trigger, and that's almost like aim down sights, where it's like, okay, whatever weapon you have in hand, you're going to throw it at the next guy, and this is just aiming at him. It doesn't tell you to pull the right trigger at all. So if you don't know to do that, it's just this prompt that does nothing. So that was kind of frustrating. And then this time around, you don't have XP. They don't handle progression that way. They have kind of like check marks you can do, where if you get 10 kills with a weapon, then you get a perk point, and then with all these different perks, you can unlock all these different stuff. Like you can unlock a rappelling rope, the wingsuit, a parachute, stuff like that. More weapon slots, that's very important. So you'll find perk points, like there'll be magazines at the prepper stashes. If you find those magazines, those give you perk points, and then also if you do all this other stuff, like kill 10 guys with Molotov cocktails. So it's kind of interesting where it makes you experiment with all the weapons, but also if you find something that works, you're not progressing, because then once you max out everything with using the stuff you have, you're not getting any more perk points.
Oh, okay.
So that's kind of weird, but but yeah, like the story, like it had a lot of potential to it, and it just kind of didn't really follow through on it. You think about like how the Wolfenstein last year kind of like fell into this thing where it seemed more to have a social commentary than probably was ever intended.
Right.
And then here, it's like they had time to like work at that. It's like, oh, we're gonna take this self-reflexive look at Americana in modern times and what that means, and are these people gonna be like, some weird alt-right people, but like, and it's like, but then like the church group, they aren't like racist like you would expect them to be because all the leaders are white, but then like the people around there are like working for them, like they're all different nationalities.
Oh, okay.
But it's not represented in the cutscenes, so that's kind of weird.
Huh.
Also, this time around, you make your own character. So in 3 and 4, your character was a defined personality.
Yeah.
And so like they had their own like sort of like backstory and personality, and they like would talk and say things, and so this time around they went like the silent protagonist route or whatever. And the problem is, like, you're really just a blank slate. Like, your character doesn't add anything to any of the story whatsoever. You're just viewing everything. Like, you're not even like Gordon Free. Like, they just call you Deputy.
Oh, okay. Weird.
Yeah. Because you can be either a man or a woman.
Oh,
so
okay.
that's why they don't give you any gender pronouns. Just call you Deputy or Dep.
Huh.
But yeah, it's really cool to play. It's a nice looking game. So I say check it out if you want. Just don't look for.
I think Grayson's gonna.
Yeah.
Eventually.
But yeah, like 3 and 4 both had like weirdly charming psychopaths that were kind of funny and amusing, albeit psychopaths. And this time around, it's just charmless psychopaths. It's not really.
Yeah, gotta have your villains be engaging.
Yeah.
So me and my son and my wife have found a TV show on AMC that looks started off pretty good. We've seen 2 episodes. It's called The Terror. And these were people in the 1850s that were trying to make it through the Northwest Passage, try to find that passage up north around Canada to come out the other side and trade route basically, because this is pre-Panama Canal, so they're desperately looking for anything. And I didn't realize I was watching a making of and the writers and the producers of the show were saying more people have successfully landed on the moon than have successfully run the Northwest Passage. Is very dangerous because you're in the Arctic Circle on ships, and there's two. These are explorer ships. The one's called the Erebus, and the one's called the HMS Erebus and the HMS Terror. And they're real ships. This really happened to a point. They're weird. It's weird because the HMS Terror was the one that they think was shelling the base when Francis Scott Key was writing the Star Spangled Banner. Because what the Erebus and the Terror are what they called bomb ships, or what we'd call mortar ships, where instead of having outward facing large cannons, they had inboard built ones that fired from the center of the ship out so they could just lob huge shells in. They were a siege ship, essentially.
Yeah.
And the reason they were chosen for this, and this happens in the 1850s, and the reason they chose these ships is they had incredibly strong hulls because the cannon force was directed down into the ship. It wasn't being fired from a cannon out the side.
Yeah.
So they thought they'd be good icebreakers. And so they go, and it's weird because you watch this and the production values of this show are amazing. Like, oh, you really feel like you're there. They don't miss a beat. This looks like the greatest, like, kind of BBC type period piece stuff. Real good costumes, real good actors. It's got Syrian Hines. You've seen him in about everything. You know who that guy is, right?
I can't think of, put a face in the name right now. What else is it?
Oh, you'd recognize the, let's see, what's Syrian Hines been in that you would have seen? Where is it? He was in Excalibur, but probably don't remember. Does a lot of, I think he's from Northern Ireland, so he does a lot of like BBC type stuff. What is the last big one that he was in? Because he always plays like a third main character or something. He was in John Carter. Okay. Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. He was that one.
I did not see the. I did not see the new one.
They played Dumbledore in one of the Harry Potter movies. Deathly Hallows Part 2. I don't know, if you saw him, you'd recognize him. He was in Miami Vice. He played, remember the FBI agent? The 2006 one.
Nobody remembers it.
Probably don't remember.
Is he at the top cast list?
Yeah.
Because I'm like looking at, oh, there he is. Okay, yeah, I know that guy.
Yeah, you've seen him. He does a good job.
Yeah, he usually plays like some vaguely Eastern European spy or something.
Yeah, it's weird. He's always, because he played the president in the Sum of All Fears.
Okay.
But yeah, he's always playing people like that. But that's a good actor. You don't notice.
Yeah, he's in Red Sparrow. That seems about right.
Yeah. Yeah, and the guy who plays the captain, because I forget, one of them is the captain of the Erebus and one of them is the captain of the Terror, but the Syrian Hines is like the senior captain because they always call him Sir John. But anyway, these guys get froze in the ice. Of course, trying to do this because they wait. I don't know. It's really hard to do. But like I said, this happened in the 1850s, so this is like 10 years before the American Civil War. And it's like me and Grayson were talking. It's like, yeah, this was only, and then people are dying from like stupid shit. Like somebody has infection, and oh, this one has tuberculosis. And it's like, this was only 160 years ago, but it looks like the Middle Ages. Like because their situation gets more and more desperate because these ships are just frozen in the ice. And but there's some native peoples, and then there's a supernatural element. And it starts killing off everyone, and that's what, because this is a Dan Simmons book. Dan Simmons is probably best known. He wrote Hyperion, science fiction. It was a big deal in the 80s.
Vaguely, it sounds familiar.
Yeah, so this is the guy Dan Simmons wrote the book, and this is an actual historical thing. These two ships tried to make the Northwest Passage, froze in the ice, and they were lost to history. And they just found them off the coast of Newfoundland, like, I don't know how long ago it was, like maybe 6 or 7 years ago. But they were in almost perfect condition because they were just in Arctic waters. So they got basically frozen in the ice, and everyone starved to death trying to find their way back. But this movie, or this TV series, it's an AMC, tells a supernatural reason as to why they died. I don't know. We're only 2 in. You can binge watch it if I have to upgrade my membership to like AMC Direct or something.
Okay.
Which I'm not going to do because we're just going to watch it every week because we get together as a family and do it. But it was like, I was kind of surprised at first. It's like, is this going to be any good? Because it starts off a little dry and slow because it's just a bunch of British sailors, like, ho, 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 and they're on the ship, and doing their thing. But then you find out there's a lot of shit going on with the characters and who they are and what they're doing. And it's very well done, though. First 2 episodes were pretty impressive. Of course, there's people out there that did pay and have binge watched the whole series, and you got to watch what you read about it because they'll just blow the whole thing for you because people like to do that. But yeah, so The Terror, AMC, check it out.
Right.
Very, very expensive, nice looking show.
Well, I mean, Walking Dead's going down the tube, so they got to find something new.
Well, this is a one and done 10 episoder.
Oh, really? Okay. So
yeah, this isn't going to be like a regular show.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
might be why I haven't heard of it. Although, actually, I don't know any of this. I think isn't Into the Badlands? Is that a show on AMC?
It was. Maybe. I'm not sure.
I thought that was like because I thought it was canceled too, and then I saw advertising for season 3, and I was like, oh, I guess that's still going.
AMC makes really expensive kind of offbeat shows, and sometimes they work and sometimes they don't, because this is wholly owned by AMC. Like, they bought the rights to the book and made this show, and this show was really, really expensive to make, I guess. I haven't heard how much, but it was over $200 million.
Yeah, anytime you put boats in water and film it, it's just outrageously expensive.
It's like I said, it's great period costumes and stuff. Like, you believe you're there. There's nothing that like, oh, that looks a little weird. It's like, nope, you actually believe you're in the Arctic. And then there's big time leaps in it too, because it's like first the ice starts to form around them, and then they're like, well, we got to find a way through, and then they start putting gunpowder in the ice and trying to blow up the ice in front of them so they can keep moving. And then it kind of fades to black, and then it comes back. It's 8 months later. It's like, whoa, these guys have been a lot. But they're running around the ice trying to find their way towards land, and people start getting killed by this supernatural creature.
The Wendigo from the last winter.
Actually, the way some people have described it vaguely that aren't trying to be jerks, they say it's like The Thing meets The Bounty. It's like that that kind of mashup of an idea. But like I said, based on real events, except the supernatural stuff, which is just a story, or we think. Coast to Coast AM. Tell what really happened. But yeah, it took me a while to figure out, because I thought it was just called The Terror because it was like, oh, this is something terrible on the show, because they don't really actually explain. They do explain the names of the ship and stuff. I might have missed it, but then in one scene you just see the back of the ship, and it's zooming into where they're all having dinner inside, and it says HMS Terror on the back. I'm like, oh, okay, that's why it's called The Terror. I brain farted that, but yeah. So check it out. So far, so good. I'm not going to say it's going to be 10 episodes of pure orgasmic bliss, but started off pretty good. So we watched a movie this week on
Filmstruck, another Criterion Collection.
Classic film. We're going to watch these kind of movies now because we were running out of movies to watch from the 80s. Actually, we weren't, but we were just losing interest. So, yeah, and this was a movie I remember. It's like a lot of David Lynch stuff I like. There's so many great scenes. A
reset. We watched David Lynch's Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me.
Oh, why did I skip a whole thing?
I don't think we ever said that. We just started to go in David Lynch.
Oh, well, yeah. Okay, yeah. So, yeah, Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me, 1992. And this is one of my favorite David Lynch parts
Was
of
it
the movie.
92? So was this like immediately following like the cancellation of the series?
Yeah.
Huh.
That's the only
Okay.
way they could get it done. And for nostalgia's sake, I went back and sampled some episodes of the original Twin Peaks season 1, season 2 to kind of bring me up to this, just because I didn't get to do that with the series because we were doing so many other things. So I was like, I'm going to watch some original Twin Peaks. And I watched like 6 episodes and drank some coffee and had some apple pie. And this is a much harder movie than the series.
Oh yeah.
This movie, like, we're just going full into incest rage and terrifying. I mean, there's weird imagery in the TV show. This stuff, like,
But not not pervasive.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because like the series, like there is illogical moments that don't make sense, very dreamlike.
Yeah.
But that is for like maybe the start of an episode or the end of an episode, or not even an episode, maybe a season.
Yeah.
Here it is all throughout.
Yeah, it's just
Which like is when you take the difference between, you know, the original 2 seasons and the latest season, yeah, this pretty much bridges the gap of like what the latest season has been, is just full on Lynchian weirdness.
Yeah, I'm amazed because, like I said, this 92, and you watch the modern series, and it's like, oh, they didn't really miss a step. I mean, it's jumped right back into it.
But yeah, I have to imagine that like being that, you know, this is a movie and Lynch is the director, is everything filters through him.
Yeah.
So like it's gonna be full on weird. It's we don't got like 8 different writers and like 7 different directors or whatever. It's just Lynch,
Right.
and his producers or whatever.
And this movie was really big in Asia for some reason. Complete failure here, really popular in Asia.
Now, when did you first see it or even be aware of it?
I knew it was in theaters because, well, I was in high school when the TV show was out.
Yeah.
I knew this came out in theaters, but it was like there was a time when they wouldn't let you into movies that were R-rated if you were not 18 or 17 or something. And I don't think Mom and Dad were interested in seeing this with me. Probably a good thing. So I didn't watch Fire Walk with Me until I want to say like 98 or 2000 maybe.
Okay.
So I didn't get to watch this after the end of the TV series because it just really wasn't widely available. And then, I mean, I could have probably rented it at some point, but it just never occurred to me. And then one day I came across it, probably at Blockbuster or something. I was like, oh, I'm going to watch this. And, you know, like I said, some of the best scenes of any David Lynch movie, but overall, not a wonderful movie experience. Much harder Twin Peaks.
Well, it's also this kind of a weird. You start off with this opening and then just ends abruptly.
Yes.
And then you have like the Agent Cooper character. His stuff kind of starts and ends abruptly too. And then the meat of the movie is with Laura Palmer, which is about half hour into the movie.
Yeah.
Which is weird.
Oh yeah.
Did you watch any of the extra stuff, special features?
No, I didn't.
Oh, you gotta watch that stuff.
Okay, I meant to, but I'm trying to.
There's
I had a guy today to look at my window. I got to get this window behind me replaced.
Yeah, because there's one that's it's called Missing Pieces, and it's an hour and a half of cut footage and extended scenes.
Okay. I wish I would have watched that now.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird stuff because when you have the so it's kind of makes a lot of scenes weird because the whole scene with David Bowie, like there's about like 15 more minutes of that scene and it's not edited weird. It's just straight, like we have shots.
Okay.
And the scene like makes more or less sense. And then there's a weird moment where he just disappears, and then there's another introductory moment where it shows him, he's like in a hotel somewhere, and then he just like disappears back to that hotel, and there's like, you can see like these burn marks on the wall where it's like, oh, that's what happened when he was just randomly teleported back to this hotel for some reason. There's like a woman screaming and a guy holding his ass.
Okay.
And he's like, Mister, I just shit my pants.
For some reason, I think I've seen some of these now that you say that.
Now, there's a great one. There's a completely nonsensical one that's like really great. There's like this old guy has like a hearing aid, giant glasses, and he's talking to the guy who runs the sawmill.
Uh-huh.
And he's like, I ordered a 2x4. And then he's like trying to explain to the guy that like a 2x4 isn't actually like 2x4. It's like now industry standard or whatever and stuff like that. And he's explaining it to him. That seems pretty funny.
Wait a minute. I think I have seen these now that you mention it. Isn't there a couple scenes with the guy at the lumber mill? Like, this is how they're trying to screw us. Like he's having a conversation out in the parking lot. And I think I have watched some of these.
Yeah. There's even another one with Heather Graham where she apparently like comes back out of the Black Lodge, and then she has the green ring, and then she like tells the nurse about like something about how there's two Coopers, and the good ones in the Black Lodge and the other ones outside or whatever.
Okay.
But that was never. But yeah, that's cut footage, so that's only been there. Then there's some interviews and stuff. There's a pretty good one with there's one where it's David Lynch, Cheryl Merrill, and Ray Wise, and then I can't remember who plays the mother, but it's her too. And it's just them having a conversation about the movie. That one's kind of hard to watch, but because it's like even too weird to just sit there and watch it, because it's just them having weird conversations and being like over expository. Not necessarily over expository, but like really excited and weirdly charged about it. It's like, oh, this is great. Everything's a 9 and a 10, or I don't know. It's so weird. But the one which just an interview with Cheryl Miller. That one's I'm saying her name right. It's Cheryl Miller.
I think so. Yeah.
I feel like anyway, she was talking about like how crazy it was to do the movie, and she was talking about how, like, you know, in other acting roles she kind of uses other processes, but like with this one, this is the first time she really got super in depth with the character.
Mm-hmm.
And like how difficult that was to do, and then so much that she was talking about how after they'd finished shooting, she was at a grocery store and she was checking out, and or about to, and then she had internalized that she had a thought of her own for the first time in a week. And what she means is like her Cheryl Miller had a thought that was hers, not her Laura Palmer having a thought. It's just like, oh, I'm me again. It's like, oh, this is why actors are fucking insane.
Yeah.
It's like they generally lose their own identity. So I thought that was pretty good. It's like, oh yeah, it would be really hard to play that character if you had to go that in deep with it.
I just like it that there were other movies. There were at least 3 sequels planned to this. The story arc of Twin Peaks. David Lynch actually said that. Did some background stuff on YouTube, and of course that never materialized. But isn't this when this is like when Lynch went out into the wilderness after this movie for a while?
I don't know, maybe. He usually does that. He'll be like, hey, what has David Lynch been doing? You realize like he shot like 18 Calvin Klein commercials and he's funding his next project.
Right. It could be.
Cause yeah, he do that. He did that Chris Isaac music video, right? That famous one.
Yes, I think so.
That black and white one. So I think that's what basically one of the reasons why Chris Isaac is in this, because they just work together.
Chris Isaac did a great job in this.
And then also this has the part that's like your favorite part, or at least for like people who don't get lynching weirdness. Like here they're like giving you a roadmap to this. It's like, oh, things mean things, whether they mean that exactly or not, but things mean things. It's like, you may think this is weird, but it does have a deeper meaning, or not, you know.
Or it's just weird. Yeah, the scene at the airport, I love that. And then the stuff with Agent Cooper and at the FBI headquarters when David Bowie comes in with his weird Southern accent. And then my favorite one is when he keeps walking in and out, looking at the camera, and then there's him standing there and he's watching himself on the camera, and then the guy comes in behind him. It's like, oh, that's awesome.
And you're just sitting there like, why would he think to do that? It's like, don't think about it. But yeah, that scene, like, especially if you watch the extended cuts of that, as you can see, like, they merged two different scenes together with like weird editing and kind of made it super weird, where like both scenes were just played straightforward.
Yeah.
And they make more sense. And this time it just seemed to be like they're kind of like, maybe they thought Bowie's accent was a mistake and then tried to cover it up with this weirdness.
Yeah, they won't notice this guy's doing a really weird Southern accent if we have all this stuff going on.
We'll just like blend it together with static and stuff with backwards talking people saying things. With this ring, I thee wed.
Now, how do they that effect? Because they like say it normally.
They record them saying it normally, and then they then reverse it, and then they have to like learn to try and copy it, them saying it backwards.
Okay.
So then
some kind of technique.
So then they are speaking it backwards, and then they reverse everything. So then they are technically saying the thing, but because you can't actually talk backwards, that's why it sort of resembles what it's meant to be saying. What's meant to be said sort of resembles the original, but it is super fucking weird.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why they throw subtitles in there, is because you can't actually like really. Because I always kind of wonder, like watch those scenes without subtitles, and like, yeah, you can pick out some stuff, especially if the sentence is very simple, but for extended ones, that might be hard.
Yep. And then we have the scenes with the Laura Palmer stuff is kind of it's disturbing, which it's meant to be, because it is. But we do,
especially you have to like remember she's like 17 years old, supposedly in this.
Supposedly, yeah.
Well, I mean, the actress would probably be in her 20s or whatever, but yeah, if you have to, you always have to like remind yourself, like, oh yeah, she's supposed to be like in high school, like this. It's like, oh yeah, this makes this extra disturbing.
Yeah, this is basically the incest and murder and weird sex with a teenager, but that's not, there's a few scenes in the high school, and then that's sort of forgotten, easy to forget about. I don't even know if they do that nowadays. They'd probably just make her like going to community college in her 20s or something.
Yeah, probably.
Because it just would be too weird, too disturbing.
Well, yeah, especially when she like starts getting nude and stuff like that, and having sex in the middle of a bar.
Yeah, with weird, Canadian drug dealers.
Yeah.
What does the one fat guy say? He says something really weird, like, I'm a wet fart. And when they're all talking really loud in that club.
I remember the first thing he says is like they're like, hey Jacques, and he's like, my name's Jacques, not Jacques. I am the Great Wint. I'm like,
Yeah.
That doesn't means nothing. That means nothing. That means nothing.
Those sound like things that people would say in a full-fledged cocaine binge.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one. Yeah, I think in the soundtrack to this movie is amazing.
Yes.
But my favorite song is a song just called "The Pink Room," and that's in the loud club scene music.
Mm-hmm.
And it's probably like it's probably my favorite scene in the movie. And a lot of it is one of those things that like Lynch is getting away with something. It's like he's such a genius that he's doing something that's like most people would consider a mistake.
Yeah.
It's like, because like in a movie set, like there would be no music.
Yeah.
Like so like somebody could like be watching this and think like, did they fuck up the audio mix? Like, why would you do a scene like this? And it's like, why not? Because you can't understand anybody. It's like, who cares?
Yeah, it's very unique. Yeah, nobody
So
would ever do that.
Yeah, it's like one of these things that it seems almost amateurish, but then like just David Lynch does it and it's a style, which I love.
Yeah. It took me a long time to really like his movies. And like I said, I know I don't get them on all the levels that some people think are there, but I just enjoy the visual treat.
Oh yeah.
Which is about as far as I get. I'm not going to sit down and like debate pseudo philosophy about what does all this mean. No.
Well, it's I mean, I wish like David Lynch did audio commentaries, but you kind of realize why he doesn't, because he likes to keep everything a mystery still. He likes, he doesn't want to ruin the movie in your mind. It's like he made a movie for you to make in your mind.
Yeah, I always feel like when David Lynch made a movie, he kind of, as a consumer, he's just turning it over me. It's like, this is yours now. Because anything you really say about it can't be wrong, unless you describe it as like a science fiction movie where they're trying to get to a planet or something. Like, that's obviously not happening, or is it? You don't know. It could be, because there's so much oddball stuff in this.
Yeah. And
David Lynch is like the American European avant-garde filmmaker. Like, that's, you see a lot of movies from Europe that are just have strange elements in it and stuff. It's like, oh, that's where either he gets this stuff from them or they get this stuff from him. I don't know what it is, because I know in France he's like a national hero.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, because they love shit like that. It's like, oh, we don't need a simple story. We like it because you can kind of own it. You can own every David Lynch movie. Well, this is what this means to me. And at what time in my life. That's what I liked a lot about Inland Empire after I watched it like 5 times. Fuck, this is amazing. I could make my own movie out of just this.
Yeah, I don't think I discovered Fire Walk with Me till like maybe early 2000s, where like when Stars had like 8 different channels and it just happened to be on one of those.
Stars Bizarre, hey.
And I think I just came upon it, and I think I came upon that part where like the kid with the weird nose mask is just hopping around the parking lot.
Yeah.
And that was my first scene of Fire Walk with Me. Eventually I came back around to it.
Eventually I always call Grayson in. It's like, hey, come here, look what your dad's watching. So this is a great movie, and it was the scene where Leland and Laura in the convertible, and he's just revving his engine, and the guy from the Black Lodge is screaming at him from that other car. And Grayson he watched that whole thing with me for like, this is like a 5-minute scene. He's like, what did I just see? I said, you just saw part of a David Lynch movie. It's never going to leave you. But yeah, this is this is a good Twin Peaks. Actually makes this is not a bad bridge movie for Twin Peaks.
Yeah.
Twin Peaks universe. That's something I would recommend. It just sit down and watch this as its own thing. No, because it's what? sense.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's why it would have been nice to have Andrew here to get like his opinion on it.
Yeah.
It's like, so what'd you think? He's like, I don't know what the fuck I just watched. Just watched.
There's some cool stuff in there. It's like that's all that matters.
Because I showed him the new series like without anything, and that's why I did a whole podcast of that. And he's like, hey, what do you think? And like he liked it, and I think he's only seen like 4 episodes of the new season, so that's like the only Twin Peaks he's seen.
Oh, okay.
So, and I tried to tell him, because he was worried, like, would he need to know anything? And I'm like, well, no, because this is kind of a prequel story, so you don't necessarily need to know anything. Although, you know, you won't be prepared for weirdness.
Yeah.
Except if I say David Lynch, you should know what that means. Like, oh.
So am I gonna have to pay attention?
Yes and no.
Kind of.
However you enjoy it. If you enjoy it, pay attention. If you don't, then don't. Well, that's some nice visuals.
Yeah, that's pretty much me. Nice visuals, but nah.
I don't know, where's this rank in the pantheon of David Lynch movies for you?
I don't know, because there's not very many David Lynch movies I don't like. There's some that I've only seen a few times. I mean, like the new Twin Peaks made me so happy.
Yeah.
This is kind of like basking in the glow of it's like, oh yeah, it's just like I love this stuff, and but I don't know. It's hard for me to say.
I think as much as I love David Lynch, there's still like 4 movies of his I haven't seen.
Yeah,
I haven't seen Eraserhead. I've seen parts of Inland Empire. I haven't put the full 3 hours of that in. I have not seen Wild at Heart.
I've watched that once. I didn't really care for that.
And there's one more I can't think of right now. Oh, I'll have to pull up his filmography or whatever.
So I know we saw Mulholland Drive.
Mulholland Drive.
Those are all strong.
Blue Velvet.
Blue Velvet.
Oh yeah, he did. He did that Elephant Man movie, didn't he?
Yeah, that's a conventional movie.
Yeah,
though.
I still haven't seen that. Yeah, it's not really a David Lynch movie, but I still haven't seen it.
Dune, I enjoy just for it was deliciously weird, but in kind of a different way. Perfect visualization of a novel. Terrible fucking movie. But it is the Dune that everyone thinks of when they think of Dune. Even when they read the book, they're like, "Oh yeah, this looks like that." I really can't. I don't know where this is. This would have to be. I probably like Mulholland Drive and Lost Highway more. But Lost Highway, I like the soundtrack a lot too. So it's kind of a thing.
Well, my late teenage. I guess there's not really no late teenage, but yeah, like early 2000s. Mulholland Drive and Lost Highway soundtrack was like that's what I listened to constantly.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But that's always because David Lynch is great at picking.
Yes, he is
picking music.
So yeah, I'd have to say this is kind of.
There's that one scene where it's like that. It's that one lady singing, and it's like there's red everywhere, but she's lighted blue, and then Laura Palmer's just like crying, watching her. It's like, this is great.
Yeah, I'd have to say this is definitely above Inland Empire, but maybe below Mulholland Drive. I don't know, but see
for me, it might be this might be third. I might be Blue Velvet, maybe Mulholland Drive after that, then this, and then you got like Lost Highway, and then that's still all the ones I haven't watched.
Yeah,
because I've actually seen that one movie he directed where like the one guy has a tractor and his brother's dying of cancer and he drives across America in a lawnmower. I think I've seen that movie.
don't think I watched that one.
Yeah, it's like a PG Disney movie that he directed. It's
Right.
like there's not a whole lot of Lynchian weirdness to it.
Yeah, this is the make money part of it.
Yeah. But yeah, I remember I went to saw Mulholland Drive in theaters.
Oh, okay.
Like right before like it went out of theaters. Because like they made a big push for Mulholland Drive. It's like, oh, this is amazing, and then it just like disappeared really quickly. It's like, well, I guess no one ever saw that movie, and then it kind of had a pretty big following, like especially like when with DVD and stuff like that. Even though the DVD for that movie was fucked, because that was the one where you couldn't there's no chapters to it. You either had to watch the movie in one go or not.
Yeah, that was a Lynch thing. I think he didn't like the people to pause.
Yeah.
He doesn't like people to watch movies on iPhones and stuff.
Nope.
Which I sort of get that. in a way.
Yeah, I completely understand it, but it's also, it seems antithetical maybe to like a creative process. Because like you can, like, especially when it comes to movies, you can't control the medium from which it's watched from, but but then you got like Tarantino doing stuff like he still shoots his movies in film and like antiquated film and stuff like that. Like forcing theaters to like, oh shit, we got to pull out a projector again. We switched all over to digital. Like what the fuck?
Oh, you have to. You have to. They're not just shot on film. You have to show them on a reel-to-reel projector. So.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
They might have had some. They might have done something, but as far as I remember, they still had those got sent out as reels. But
that's funny. I didn't know that. What's he got coming out anytime soon?
He's got that 60s movie he's doing. Like Brad Pitt's gonna be in it. It's gonna be revolve around the Manson family. Because I remember people thought they were just calling it like it's Quentin Tarantino's Manson family movie, but he's more like it's when did that happen? Was it 69 or something? When that went on?
Yeah.
He's more maintaining that it's like a 60s era movie, and it's more about the era and less about the Manson family in particular. But
Oh, okay, I see.
then also like whatever he did when they had that emergency meeting with who's the guy from Bad Robot, Lost and all that.
J.J. Abrams.
Yeah, the emergency meeting with J.J. Abrams. Like, here's my pitch for a Star Trek movie, and everybody's like, "Oh, cool! I want to see a Tarantino Star Trek movie." And watches that never happens because fucking Paramount's in the shitter. It's like, oh yeah, let's put together $100 million R-rated Star Trek movie.
We're putting it all on, putting all the money on the table and just throwing we're shooting the dice out of a cannon.
Even like even Patrick Stewart came out there. I was like, well, fuck, if Tarantino's doing it, I'm in.
Dwarf, bring me my Batla. It's the one that says bad motherfucker. Oh, God. All right. Well, I think it's time. It's time for sleep.
All right.
All right. So this week for the American Greed Factory podcast is Nathan.
This is Colin. Goodbye, America.